Welcome to the Fluent Zone with new episode of podcast. I'm Natasha, and in today's episode we'll be talking about how to speak English without fear. But first, let me ask you, have you ever been afraid to speak English? Do you feel nervous when you need to have a conversation? Or maybe you're worried about making mistakes in front of others? Well, you're not alone. Many people feel the same way. Speaking a new language can be intimidating, but today I'm going to share some tips and real-life stories that will help you overcome that fear. In this episode, you'll not only learn how to build confidence when speaking English, but also improve your listening and writing skills as you listen to real-life stories. Make sure to press the like button if you're ready to start improving your English today. Let's dive in. Let's start with a story from my own experience. A few years ago, I went to a small cafe in London to meet a friend. When I arrived, the barista, a young man named Alex, asked me what I'd like to drink. I was so nervous about speaking in English that I almost froze. I didn't want to make a mistake, so I hesitated for a few seconds. Then I remembered something important. Everyone makes mistakes. It's okay. I took a deep breath and confidently said, "I'll have a coffee, please." Alex smiled and said, "Coming right up." That simple conversation was the beginning of my journey to feeling more confident in my English speaking. So what did I learn from this experience? First, it's important to remember that speaking English isn't about being perfect. It's about communicating. The more you practice, the easier it becomes. If you make a mistake, don't worry about it. Just keep going. Another way to gain confidence is by practicing with people who are supportive. I remember another time when I was at a social event and I met a couple named Sarah and James. Sarah was fluent in English and James was still learning. They both encouraged me to speak even when I was nervous. James told me, "Don't be afraid to make mistakes. We're all learning here." That support made me feel so much more comfortable. So, here's another tip. Find people who will support you and encourage you. Practicing with others, especially those who understand what you're going through, makes a huge difference in building confidence. One of the biggest challenges in speaking English is the fear of being judged. I know this feeling well. One day I was having a conversation with a colleague named Michael, and I was so worried that I might say something wrong. But Michael made me feel comfortable by listening carefully and asking me questions. That helped me relax and focus on communicating, not on being perfect. The lesson here: it's important to find environments where people are patient and understanding. Whether it's a language exchange partner, a teacher, or even a friend, try to surround yourself with people who make you feel comfortable. Now let's talk about one more tip. Practice makes progress. You don't need to speak perfectly right away. It's all about taking small steps every day. I remember when I first started practicing English with my husband. At first, it was awkward, but over time, I became more confident. We didn't worry about every mistake. Instead, we focused on having fun with the language. So, set small goals for yourself. Maybe today you'll try to order food in English at a restaurant, or perhaps you'll speak to a friend in English for 10 minutes. Little by little, your confidence will grow. Remember, speaking English without fear isn't about being perfect. It's about being willing to try even when you feel nervous. Over time, your confidence will grow and so will your skills. Let's talk a little more about how to handle those nervous moments when speaking English. One thing that really helped me was practicing in front of a mirror. It may sound strange, but hear me out. When you practice speaking English alone in front of a mirror, you can see your facial expressions and body language. It helps you feel more comfortable and confident. Plus, when you talk in front of a mirror, you can correct yourself without worrying about someone else judging you. I remember the first time I did this. I was practicing a presentation for work, and I kept stumbling over my words. But as I practiced in front of the mirror, I noticed my posture was a little tense, so I worked on relaxing. By the time I gave the presentation, I felt much more confident and it went smoothly. The mirror trick is simple, but it can be incredibly effective for building confidence. Another helpful technique is to use positive self-talk. When I was learning to speak English, I used to tell myself, "It's okay to make mistakes. I'm getting better every day." Even when I wasn't perfect, I reminded myself that speaking English is a skill just like any other, and it takes time to improve. Encouraging yourself can change how you feel when speaking, and it will make a huge difference in your confidence. Let's talk about one more thing you can do to build confidence. Find situations where you can speak English regularly. I remember when I moved to a new city and didn't know many people. At first, I was nervous to speak English in public, but then I started looking for places where I could practice. One day, I joined a local English club that met every week. It was a group of people who were also learning, and we would chat about our daily lives in English. I felt much more comfortable speaking because I knew everyone was there to practice and learn together. One time I met a new friend at the club named David. He was from Canada and had been speaking English for years. But guess what? He still made mistakes. That showed me that it's okay to make mistakes no matter how long you've been speaking a language. David was always supportive and helped me when I needed it. The lesson here: find a group or a community where you can practice with others who understand the process of learning. By creating opportunities to speak English every day, whether it's at work, with friends, or through social activities, you'll get more used to it. The more you practice, the less fear you'll have, and the more natural it will feel. Now let's take a moment to think about a situation where you might feel nervous about speaking. Maybe it's at a meeting, or perhaps when you're talking to a stranger. Have you ever found yourself worrying that you won't understand the other person, or you'll say something wrong? That's completely normal. I've been there myself. When I first started speaking English more often, I had moments where I couldn't understand what someone was saying, but instead of panicking, I'd politely ask them to repeat themselves. It's okay to ask for clarification, and most people are happy to help you understand. For example, one time I was talking to a man named John, and he used a word I didn't know. Instead of getting nervous, I just said, "Sorry, can you explain what that word means?" He was more than happy to help, and it turned into a great learning moment for me. Asking questions like that shows confidence because it means you're actively trying to understand and improve. So, next time you don't understand something, remember it's perfectly fine to ask. It's a great way to learn and shows that you're willing to engage in the conversation. Let's also talk about the importance of setting realistic expectations for yourself. It's easy to feel disappointed when you don't speak perfectly. But remember, nobody speaks perfectly all the time. Even native speakers make mistakes. The key is to stay positive and focus on progress, not perfection. Set small goals for yourself. For example, Maybe your goal this week is to learn 10 new English phrases and use them in conversations. Achieving small goals will make you feel more confident and motivated to keep going. For instance, I remember when I set a goal to learn 5 new expressions every week. At first, I struggled to remember them, but with practice, I started using them more naturally in conversations. This simple exercise helped me feel more confident in my speaking, and it made my conversations sound more fluent. Speaking English without fear is all about taking small, consistent steps. You don't need to become fluent overnight. The more you practice, the more comfortable you'll get with speaking, and the more your confidence will grow. Think about a time when you were nervous to speak English. How did you handle it? What did you learn from the experience? Whether it was ordering food at a restaurant or giving a presentation at work, those moments are opportunities to grow. And every time you speak, no matter how small the conversation, you're becoming more confident in your English skills. So the next time you feel nervous about speaking, remember everyone starts somewhere. Let's dive even deeper into how we can overcome the fear of speaking English. It's normal to feel nervous, especially when you're speaking a language that's not your first. But I want to tell you that fear is something we can work on. The more we practice, the less it controls us. Let me share some powerful stories and tips that I've learned along the way, and how they can help you feel more confident. So one thing I always tell my students is that fear often comes from the unknown. When we don't know what to expect, it's easy to feel afraid. I've seen this happen with my friend Daniel. He's an English learner who was so afraid to speak in public that he avoided group discussions at work. One day we had lunch together and I asked him, "Why do you avoid speaking in English?" He told me that he worried about making mistakes and embarrassing himself in front of others. I could totally relate. We all feel that way at some point. I asked him to do one simple thing. Imagine that everyone in the room was there to help him, not judge him. It's all about changing our mindset. Once Daniel started thinking this way, he started to relax more in conversations. The next time we were in a group, he spoke up. He made a mistake. He said the wrong word. But instead of feeling embarrassed, he laughed it off and corrected himself. And you know what? No one even noticed the mistake. This is a powerful lesson. When you're confident, people will focus on your message, not your mistakes. The fear disappears when you realize people are there to communicate with you, not to judge you. A similar situation happened with my colleague Sarah. Sarah was working in a new office where she was the only one from a non-English speaking country. She was really nervous about speaking with her co-workers, especially her manager Mark. At first, she would freeze up in meetings, not knowing how to respond to simple questions. She started telling herself, "I'm not good enough, or I'll make mistakes, and they'll laugh at me." But over time, Sarah decided to take a different approach. She talked to her manager, Mark, and explained her fear. Mark reassured her and said, "Sarah, we're all learning here. Don't worry about making mistakes. What's important is that you're trying." With this support, Sarah started practicing every day. She read books in English, watched English videos, and started using English in daily conversations with her co-workers. Eventually, she felt so much more comfortable. One day during a meeting, Sarah gave an amazing presentation in English. She made a few minor mistakes, but no one even noticed because she spoke confidently and clearly. Sarah told me later that she was so proud of herself for facing her fear. This story teaches us something very important. Having a support system is key. Whether it's a colleague, a friend, or a mentor, find people who encourage you to speak and practice. You don't need to do it alone. Being part of a supportive environment helps you stay motivated, and it's so much easier to learn when you have people who believe in you. Now let's talk about some practical steps you can take to reduce the fear of speaking English. One method I found incredibly helpful is practicing speaking with someone you trust. For me, this was my husband John. When we first started speaking in English together, I was always worried about making mistakes, so I'd often speak very quietly or avoid saying certain things. But John was always encouraging. He'd say, "Don't be afraid to speak. It's okay to make mistakes. We're both learning." Gradually, I became more comfortable with him, and then I started practicing with other people. One important tip I want to share is that it's okay to make mistakes. In fact, I encourage you to make mistakes. This might sound strange, but when we make mistakes, we learn. I remember when I was practicing English with my friend Jack. He was a fluent English speaker, and we often did language exchange together. One time I made a mistake while ordering food at a restaurant. Instead of saying, "I would like a pizza," I said, "I would like pizza." Jack gently corrected me, and we laughed about it. I didn't feel embarrassed because I knew he wasn't judging me. In fact, I learned something new that day, and it made me feel more confident in my speaking. Another helpful technique is to listen to how native speakers talk. You can watch interviews, listen to podcasts, or even listen to English YouTube videos. When you speak English confidently, reward yourself, whether it's a small treat, a fun activity, or just taking time to relax. It's important to recognize your accomplishments. This positive reinforcement helps keep you motivated and encourages you to keep practicing. Lena, for example, set a goal to speak English for 30 minutes every day for a week. After completing this challenge, she treated herself to a movie night. This little reward system helped her stay motivated to keep practicing, and eventually she was speaking English for much longer periods without feeling afraid. Rewards keep the learning process enjoyable and give you something to look forward to as you work toward your goals. Thanks for watching. This videos will meet next time with another useful videos. Till then, take care and have a great day.